All right, great. So you can decide when you go to the next level in your business. And I'll never forget when I first got started. I was 27 years of age. I owned a barbershop. My wife owned a styling salon. We loved what we did, but we hated the fact that we were spending 60 to 70 hours a week away from one another and our four children. There was something about waking up in the morning, kissing our kids goodbye as we were taking them to school, and then knowing that we weren't going to kiss them again until it was time to put them in the bed. That just didn't sit very well with us. And my mentor told me, he said, James, listen, if you want something different, you got to be willing to do something different. And, we got involved with Legal Shield because it was introduced as something different. And so I just want to tell you that you made the right decision in getting started. You made the right decision in getting started, right? Because the journey of a million miles always begins with the first step. And sometimes the first step is the hardest. But we made the decision, on a part-time basis. I was looking just to make an extra $1,000 on a monthly basis to be able to cut back my hours on Saturdays so I could be a more present father, with the four beautiful Kelly kids, which you'll just see here in just a second. But we started out, made an extra $800 our first 30 days because we followed this proven success system and we trusted our leadership. And within about 4 months, we made over $6,500 in extra income because we stuck with it. And there's going to be something about, something significant that you need to know, folks, about staying. Okay. So starting is sexy, but staying is significant, right? And, again, that's what Mr. Alex Shahid told me in the training that he did not too long ago. It's so true, right? Starting is sexy, but staying is significant, right? So if you stick and stay, you'll get your pay. Within about a year, we hit the top position of the company, and this was way before technology. I mean, every appointment we did, we had to go and be in front of somebody to show them the picture, the presentation, the vision of Legal Shield. Can you believe that? For some of you that are just now getting started and you've never had to submit an application through UPS or send it in by mail, you're like, it's no way possible that this company used to actually use paper applications. But yeah, we actually did, right? And the information didn't get submitted the same day. It could take a day, 2 days. If you mailed it, it was a week before a corporate office got it. But now at the click of a button, you could be getting your applications processed, right? So things changed. Within 12 months, with no industry experience, we were able to hit the top position of the company. And what I want you to know is that no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what your challenges are, no matter what you're being confronted with, once you establish that you're not going to allow any challenge to keep you from growing to the desired potential of your business, it doesn't matter what the obstacles are, right? Because obstacles are really only things that we see when we take our eyes off our goal. So we had our own set of challenges, and we grew through those challenges to hit the top position of the company on a part-time basis. And we were able to retire my wife once we hit executive because we were able to replace that income. And within about a year after that, she, of course, was designing her own days, and it looked like so much fun that I wanted to be at home as well. And again, I was able to, at 29, walk away from what I was doing full time as a barber, and we started traveling the country doing what we feel like God has purposed us to do, and that's to liberate other people, right? And I truly believe, right, that what is success if you only get a chance to enjoy it by yourself? So success without successors is truly failure in my eyesight. And so our goal is today, right, is to show you, to allow you to see the vision for what it is. And I think it's funny to go through, what we've been experiencing this year, right? Things that have tried to create such a cloud over our country, so that we can't really see clearly what is available to us. And during any uncertainty, what I need you to know is that there's hidden possibility. During any uncertainty, there's hidden possibility. And at the beginning of the year, I created this training, and it's called "I Can See Clearly Now." I can see clearly now, 2020, because at any time, right? If you're getting started today, it's your first time, getting on the training, right? You can create a new vision. Guess what? If you've been in 6 months and you kind of got stuck at a certain position and you're figuring out, like, am I really going to build this business? Because sometimes you can have a lot of success right up front, but attaining success and maintaining success are two completely different things, right? So maybe you're at a crossroad. Do I really want to invest my time and energy to create a profession in the world of network marketing and become a pro, right? So if you're there, guess what? Today you can decide to catch a new vision, right? But it's got to be crystal clear. Maybe you're involved for 10 years or better, like me and my wife were. 2 years ago, when we made another decision to put our dirty work clothes back on and get back into the day-to-day phase one activity of building this business. And we went from qualifying executive director on the last day of the month to reaching the platinum executive director level. And guess what? That tag on there that says 100K ring and platinum executive director, because we created a vision, which is the first point of this talk on today is that we had to create a vision well before the vision actually took place, right? So I had a 100K ring and platinum executive on the slide before we actually were able to accomplish the position, because you have to see it before you see it. So, I can see clearly now, and we want to help you to create a crystal clear picture. And so some of my purpose, right, in business and in life is to help people see where they are, help them to understand where they want to go, and then also to clearly define the action steps that are necessary in order to get there. And then prayerfully today, that's what we're going to help you to do as well, right? So number one, the first thing you want to write down is that you got to have a big vision, right? You got to have a big vision when you first get started. Here's what I want you to know. Some of you that are concerned about your recruiting, the reason why the recruiting isn't where you want it to be is because your vision isn't big enough as of yet, right? You're seeing enough for yourself, but you haven't created an environment where it can be much, much bigger. What I want you to know is that people want to be a part of something that is bigger than them. See, Mr. Michael Humes, the gentleman that is centered in the middle of that picture, we were on a yacht on a Tuesday, and all of us surrounding Mr. Mike Humes, right, who is a $600,000 ring earner. He went from being a mailman to a millionaire, but he had a big vision, right? He saw this yacht party on a Tuesday long before this event ever took place. And so all of the people that are surrounding him, myself and my wife included, we're all now ring earners on his team. You know why? Because he had a big vision that allowed us to be able to fit into it. And here's what I need you to get, that your vision has to be big enough so that somebody can borrow your vision long enough in order to be able to catch a new vision of their own. Your vision has to be big enough for somebody else to be able to borrow your vision long enough for them to be able to catch a new vision for themselves, right? And so right off the bat, when we first got involved with this amazing company, we wrote down, right? We didn't have all the technology, so we had to keep up with our own recruits to some degree. But we wrote down on a blueprint that we were going to build the Davis Kelly empire, right? That's what we wrote down right off the beginning. We knew that we were going to build an empire once we really got serious about our business. So we put the Davis Kelly empire. For those of you that don't know, that Mrs. Kelly and I weren't married when we first got involved with Legal Shield. Legal Shield helped to solidify our union in marriage, and we celebrated our wedding. And then, of course, let Legal Shield pay for our honeymoon in Las Vegas. But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. But what I want you to know is that Legal Shield offers other benefits besides the membership as well as the member perks, right? But again, understand that when we got involved, we weren't married, but we had a vision for what our family was going to look like. And I'm talking about our Legal Shield family. So what I need you to know is that in today's society, most people suffer from an impediment called possibility blindness, right? We're talking about vision here, and it's often talked about in Legal Shield. You're encouraged to dream and begin to start thinking about things that may not be your current reality as though they can be and one day soon will be. But a lot of times in life, right, people suffer from what's called possibility blindness. And it's not their fault. It's not your fault. If you look at limitations, if you see the glass half empty instead of half full, you know why? Because we were created and designed for success, but we've been programmed and conditioned to fail in our society today. They told you that if you didn't pass a test, you failed, right? But how many of us know that some of these C students who didn't do so well in the classroom, but learned how to work well with people, they went to school, right, to learn how to deal with relationships and to learn how to solve problems. And those people now are the people who own the companies, and the A students work for the C students. You know why? Because they had a different mindset about what was important. But we want you to know that here in business, you can literally fail your way to success as long as you have the right vision, right? And so, a lot of times in school, you're taught that, failure is permanent. But the reality is, folks, and that's why I love teaching here, because I learned here that secondary education will make you a living, but it's self-education that'll make you a fortune. It's being on events like this. When I plugged in to Legal Shield's University of Success, I learned that just because people didn't have a degree, they didn't have a background in business, that they could still go on and be massively successful if they just put themselves in the right position, got around the right associations, as well as follow the system of success that Legal Shield provides here. And what I learned here was that in order to be able to build a business, you had to be able to see it right yourself. Because how can you see it right, say it right if you don't see it right? I'm gonna ask you that question again. I want you to write it down. How can you say it right if you don't see it right? So if you don't see it right yourself, then there's going to be difficulty when it comes to recruiting, right? Which is the key to time and financial freedom, is to attract people. And if you can't see it right yourself, that it's much, much bigger than what it is currently, right? That just because I'm behind on my bills right now doesn't mean that this time next year I won't be debt free and completely, living in a land of abundance. Because guess what? You could literally alter the course of your life. We just saw Mr. Aaron Browning on the slides, right? The gentleman made a couple $100,000 his first 12 months in Legal Shield. Now, is that normal? No. But are you normal? No, you don't have to be. You can dictate, when you become extraordinary by the things that you do and being in the right environment at the right time. So once you learn, right, number one, to have a big vision, right, to see it bigger than yourself right off the bat, then you'll learn how to be able to say it, in a way that it affects other people, right? And one of the most important skills that you need to learn here, one of the most important skills that you need to learn here in your business is how to paint pictures with your words that will actually compel men and women to take action in their lives. One of the most important skills that you'll learn here is the ability, right, to paint pictures with your words that will compel men and women to take action in their lives. Because what I need you and everyone else to understand is that sight is a function, right, of the eye, but vision is a function of the heart. And what we convey should be coming from the heart, like what Mr. Lewis was just doing a second ago. Even though he was talking about some very fundamental things, the passion that comes out of him was telling you that he sees a vision for what the conference is going to be even before the conference comes. That's what compels men and women to go and get registered early, right? So, if you realize that, your vision comes from your heart and not your circumstances, you can move the needle. They did an interview one time with Helen Keller. They say, hey, listen, you're blind. You've done all these amazing things. How have you been able to do it? And she said so candidly, so profoundly, right? I'd much rather be blind and have no sight than to have sight with no vision. It takes vision to build a big business, okay? So as we're looking at building a big business, you get a chance to realize, folks, and point number 2 is that you have to identify where you are currently. Where are you currently, right? You got to identify where you are currently. And so as you're building a business, one of the most important signs they ever created in a mall was the "You Are Here" sign, right? You are here sign. And if you've ever kind of, gotten distracted in a mall, maybe you went shopping and really were just enjoying yourself, and you went to one of those signs to figure out where you parked in comparison to where you were, you could not kid yourself about where your car was. If you were on the other side of the mall and your car was parked at the other end, you couldn't pretend, right, that your car was right outside because you were going to be stuck there for a while. Now you had to put your walking shoes on, and you had to get yourself, no matter how tired your feet were, onto the other end of the mall so you could get to your car and actually get into the vehicle that was going to take you home. Well, it's the same way in your Legal Shield business, right? You've got to learn that if you haven't developed the ability to prospect well, it's okay, right? It's okay to be bad in the beginning as long as you intend to get better in any facet of your Legal Shield business. So again, if you have challenges prospecting, guess what? We can identify that, and we'll talk about that in just a second. If you're not good at presenting as of yet, which is a key skill in order to build your business, guess what? You can get better at that. But right now, if you don't do either of those well, those are key components to building your business. So you can't kid yourself about whether or not you know how to send a video out on Prospect by Legal Shield. If you don't know how to do that, then it's difficult for you to build and to grow a successful business, not only personally, but to also duplicate that throughout your organization, right? So just understand this. Now, right now, you're working a full-time job, and as you're working your full-time job, you realize that you know exactly how much they're going to pay you per hour, no matter how well you do your job, okay? If you're working a full-time job that pays you per hour, you know exactly how much they're going to pay you, no matter if you're whistling while you work, if you speak to everybody when you walk in, make it a better environment, you still get paid that same $20 an hour, right? Now, the way to increase your income is not to work more hours, it's to put yourself in a position where you can actually get paid what you're worth per the hour that you're spending in building your business. And what I want you to know that is if you go out as a new senior associate making $132 every time you market a membership, if you work overtime on your full-time job and you actually spent, just 7 hours in a week and you made $20 an hour, that's an extra $210 for the week. But with your Legal Shield business, folks, if you went out and just wrote one membership a day, spending that same 1 hour, I call this 1 hour of overtime, this may be helpful to somebody because a lot of times when you get off from work in your part-time business, we don't treat our business like we treat our job. Because if they tell us we have to be there at 9, when do we start getting ready for that 9 o'clock assignment? at 7, right? Because we still got to get there, except those of you that got an 8-minute commute now that you're working from home. But we give an extra 2 or 3 hours a day of our time to a job again, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you love what you do, we're excited about it. But if you're the type of person that is dissatisfied with what it is that you're doing, now you can build an environment, but you got to schedule your business time just like you schedule your work time. And when I thought about the 1 hour of overtime, like I was doing when I was consulting at Humana, right? They would make us work 2 hours of overtime. And I know in those second 2 hours or those last 2 hours, people did probably 30% of the production that they did for the entire day because they had zoned out by that time. But I learned to start working my business on a part-time basis with Legal Shield, just like I would do at a full-time job as an overtime hour. So when you get off, now you're carving out at least 1 hour a day to build your part-time business. So for the part-timers, guess what? You can build significant full-time income on a part-time basis. Here's how. If you are just successful at doing 2 30-minute presentations, that is 1 hour of work, 7 days a week, and you fail at a 50% rate, that means that you sell $132 plan per day. Over the course of a week, the same hour that you were giving away to a boss, and get this, if you don't go out and build your own dreams, somebody else will hire you to build theirs, right? But the same $210 that your job was willing to pay you prior to taking taxes out for $210 that week, you would make over $840 in extra income on a part-time basis. Multiply that over a year. Just write one membership a day. That's over $40,000 in extra income, folks. You'd be right there in almost a $50,000 range just by marketing one membership a day. So remember, retirement has really nothing to do with your age. Like, how old do you have to be to retire? Right? Really, it has nothing to do with age. It's how much money you have in your bank account is when you can dictate and decide when you're going to retire. But you got to know where you are in order to define where you're going. So what is your why, right? And knowing your why helps you to define where you are, right? And helps you to see crystal clear what it is that you're building your Legal Shield business for, okay? And I believe that why is an acronym for what hurts you. And I know you hear this in the Fast Start training, and often people say, well, why do they keep on bringing up my why? It's because no matter where you are in the process of building your Legal Shield business, you have to keep your why in front of you. And I tell you what, these amazing children, Jordan just turned 25. He's my oldest son. He was my reason for living in, again, in my teenage years when I first had him and getting myself together, because he gave me a purpose for living, right? So he's 25 now, and he's an international recording artist, Mr. Jalen Kelly, down at the bottom on the left. And this gentleman just, graduated from the University of Kentucky. He's 22 years of age. Again, he came along and altered everything with his unique personality and, just a style all his own. Miss Jador Kelly, to the right, again, who is a breath of fresh air. When she smiles, she lights up the room for folks. And then Jabrielle Kelly, who is the youngest, but her and Jador are the same age range. They're both sophomores in college. So I had big reasons to build this business. And along the way, when people told me that Legal Shield would never work, I had to keep in mind that I was building my business for the person who was in the middle, Mrs. Kanika Kelly and those Kelly crew, right? As opposed to listening to what other people were saying. So why are you here? Okay, is it time and financial freedom? Are you looking for the ability to enjoy the money that you're making? Because I was time freedom broke. Well, what do you want to be? Is it the type of person that influences other people to come out of their shell and do things that they've never done? And again, you can see my sister up at the top, and that was closing one of her first group accounts with a major, television production show or studio, and we were able to get that as an account with her and for her. Now she's one of the top producers in the business arena in Legal Shield, right? So we're building a family empire. Is it, helping people from across the country be able to identify what some of their purposes are? What is it that you want to do? Is it, to be able to, stand at atop, mountains in Mexico? And, I've always been a daredevil to some degree, right? So Legal Shield has provided us with opportunities to go out and do things that we've only dreamed about. Is it, parasailing? And my wife hates water and she hates heights, but she wouldn't let me parasail without her. You can see her smiling now as we came closer to the water. Is it, again, going and experiencing amazing events? And I know Mr. Rick Mason, the former CEO of the company, invited us to the Indianapolis, racing event. We got a chance to be there. I live in Kentucky and never been to an Indianapolis 500 race until Legal Shield. Is it being on the stage, speaking in front of some of your colleagues and business partners and, even your mentors, which is what was depicted up in the top? What do you want to have, right? And I promise you, prior to Legal Shield, I never thought that I was going to be doing what I'm doing with you right now. But Legal Shield provided an environment where we could start to dream bigger what was available. And what do you have? Is it more income from different places? And that's a Canadian check. And I tell you what, that check spends differently. Is it becoming a ring earner? And my wife is depicted there showing the 50K ring when we got it. And she was accepting the ring in one state. And I was actually at the state championship with my daughter who, plays basketball. And in high school, I was one of only two dads that were at the event when our daughters were competing for a national title at the high school level, right? Is it building a big team who get a chance to celebrate moments with you like we did when we first got the 745 BMW and let Legal Shield pay for it? Or is it meeting with team all across the country? And as you can see, we've got an amazing group of professionals with our organization down at the bottom, right? And we met in Vegas to get better. And when we learn together, we grow together. But even better than that, folks, we were coming from all different, it was a diaspora of people coming from all different places in the country, all to work on the purpose. And that's the level of legal playing field. So you can have everything that you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want in life. And that was Mr. Zig Ziglar's quote. I encourage you to write that down, right? Because that's the goal in order to build a big business. But the system is what makes it all possible. The system is what makes it all possible. And here's what I need you to know, right? That, system is an acronym, number one, for save yourself some time, energy, and money. System is an acronym for save yourself some time, energy, and money. And the system makes duplication possible. Any one of us starting part-time, if you're really serious about building a business, even at the best of us could only put in an extra 4 or 5 hours a day outside of our full-time jobs when we first get involved with Shield. The only way you can ever get to the place where you have 24 hours of work going into your business is if you have more people putting in more hours. And so our system allows you to be able to employ the efforts of other people without employing them as an employee to you. They become a partner, a business partner, and not an employee. And now together we can create a system of duplication that can liberate us all. So trust the process, don't rush the process, right? Trust the process, don't rush the process. It takes 18 years to become an 18-year-old. So why do we rush ourselves in business, right? Some people are in 6 months and they're comparing themselves with somebody who's been in for 6 years, and you don't realize the extent of experience that goes along with being around for a little while. So trust the process, and you can move with urgency without rushing. I'm gonna say that again. You can move with urgency, with speed and boldness without rushing. And oftentimes, hopefully you hear this, comparing yourself to other people's success is one of the worst things that you can do, because you really have no idea what they came packaged with when they came into the Legal Shield environment. Some of them already had experience before they got there. And from the surface, it looks like you have the same set of circumstances, but behind the scenes, that's why I always love connecting with other people, because that's where you get the story behind the story. So trust your own process and fall in love with the process, okay? Again, if you fall in love with the process, you can recruit a superstar, right? You can have a Daniel Gonzalez on your team. You can actually have a Mr. Jeffrey Lewis, right? Mr. Joshua Lockhart. Anyone can recruit a superstar, even from 300 miles away. I live in Possibility City, Kentucky. That's Louisville, for those of you that don't know, right? But from 300 miles away, we actually have Mr. and Mrs. Delvito Johns and Alicia Dukes, who are now a part of the Florida leadership group. And we were able to recruit them. They were here locally, but now they're there. We're building an amazing team in Florida, because guess what? The system is making it possible. So be system dependent versus being people dependent. If you join this business just for a specific person, then that's going to only last short term. You got to figure out how to become system dependent, because guess what? Systems don't fail even when people do. And then, of course, learn to be the messenger and not the message. So point number three. So number one, you got to have a big vision. Number two, know where you are in your current life as it relates to the skills necessary to build a Legal Shield business. And then what your reason why is. Be crystal clear about that. Remember, I can see clearly now in 2020 is the goal of this, and 2020 is perfect vision. So point number three, folks, is you have to work on you. You've got to go to work on you. I've been around 17 years now, and I've watched so many people give up on their business and they blame somebody else. Like it was corporate's fault that they missed a bonus, and they didn't like how the experience went. It was their sponsor's fault because they didn't pick up the phone when they needed them to do a three-way call, and somebody actually hung up and didn't pick back up, right? Because of whatever that was. And it was my sponsor's fault. They wouldn't help me, right? But the reality in this business is, if you're going to be successful, You have to take full ownership of your business, and you've got to go to work on you. So you must fight the daily battles, the daily personal development and exposure battles of your life, right? You got to do the personal prospecting daily and personal development daily, but do realize that you can't win the war of success all by yourself. Okay. So as you're building a business, the daily stuff has to be a personal responsibility of yours. And when you decide, right, that I'm gonna read 10 pages of a good book a day, and I know a lot of this is mindset, and some of you are saying, I've heard this before. But if you've heard it, are you actually doing it? It's not 10 pages every couple of days. It's 10 pages a day. It's 15 minutes of a good audio a day. Turning your car into a drive time university. Turning off the television or CNN, which we consider to be constant negative news. If you hop in the radio, hop in the car and turn on the radio, all they're telling us about is all the melee and the hostility that's going on, and not people coming across the aisle to actually connect, but to be divisive, right? And to separate. But that's not what we're about. But what you listen to is what you're going to focus on, right? So you got to make sure that you're developing yourself personally, and you want to get yourself, your personal development bank, to 150% at the start of each day, because guess what? Life is going to come to make withdrawals. And if you're not built up in your bank for personal development, when people continually take away from you, what's going to happen is you're going to go into the negative. And has anybody ever had an overdraft fee? I'm telling you, it happens in real life as well, not just in your bank account. So you got to build yourself up with the personal development. And again, people say, well, how did you stick around so long? How did you get from not even believing that you were ever going to make the six-figure income to now looking forward to helping other people to get it? Well, it was because we believed enough in the personal development that was being poured into us to know that one day it was going to come out. And there's things designed for you on the top shelf of life that it's hard for you to reach right now because it's set up at the top. But how do you get there? Well, you got to stand on the books that you read, right? You got to stand on the audio cassettes or CDs or the MP3s that you listen to, not MP3s, but the streaming that we have now, right? And so when you have all of these things, folks, available to you, you can stand on the shoulders of people who have come before you. But then you still got to go out and do the work daily, because the prospecting of our business is the foundation of building a big business. And also, your associations are so key. Your associations are so key. Understanding your business, you get a chance to choose the family that you build here in Big Shield. We got involved in this business up front because of the money that we were going to make, but we stay involved in this business because of the relationships that we built. You may want to jot that down, right? When you get involved, you're going to get involved for the money that you can make up front, but you stay involved because of the relationships that you build. And when you build solid relationships here, people that are going to lift you up and not pull you down, because there is no in between. I want you to know that the people are either going to lift you up or they're going to pull you down. There is no in between. And so you got to build the positive associations here. And that means you got to come out of your comfort zone, right? And plug in, participate. Because in order to be powerful in public, you've got to be plugged in private to build the relationships that are necessary. And when you get in an environment like this, you know that there's winners, right? You've heard from many of them on today. And we want you to emanate that same light so that you can be a light for somebody else. But if you look around your circle of influence, your circle of friends, and you don't get inspired, you don't have a circle, you have a cage. And maybe it's time for you to start changing the associations, because when you change your associations, you also will change your perspective on what is possible for you, so you can build and grow a business to the degree that you desire to build it. So again, daily, you got to go out and fight those battles. And when you go through, and we're going to step forward now, which is the system. We'll talk a little bit about the system and we'll get ready to wrap up here. So as we build, right, in this system of success, and the reason why I pulled up this slide is because we want you to understand that there is a system that is in place. And hopefully you recognize that if you plug yourself into the system, at the end of the conveyor belt of this system, it only knows success. Our system only knows success. But the people in the system who actually veer from the system, or they move away from the system, oftentimes experience setbacks, or they experience more failure than necessary because they actually try to do it their own way. So we're going to ask you, number one, to be coachable. And coachable, right, is so important, because we can learn, right? You're in the classroom right now and you're learning. That's being teachable. But coachable means once you get out in the field, Maybe you're doing some things that are not in your best benefit. And what a coach is able to do is they're able to see things from the coach's box that you may not be able to see, because what you see depends on where you sit. You got a coach right now telling you, hey, listen, no, you probably could tweak this. You probably could, share this in this fashion. Maybe if you plugged into this training, maybe if you got this focus, you're minoring or majoring in the minors as opposed to minoring in the majors. And if they're sharing that with you, sometimes we're like, man, I'm not listening to that person. And we're costing ourselves time, energy, and success that's available because we're not allowing ourselves to be coached. It is so important to shave off time frames by allowing somebody else to speak into your life that has your best interests at heart to help you to move around the bases much, much quicker. So there's 4 key skills, right, that you need to develop. I already told you about 2 of them. 4 key skills that I feel like have helped us to build an organization of over 4,500 people in our tenure in Legal Shield, to have written over 1,700 personal memberships in our tenure in Legal Shield. Now, we're not the most accomplished membership getters. We're not the most accomplished recruiters, but we built a team where 90% of our income comes in whether or not we're working. And again, that's to the tune of over a 6-figure income, in a 12-month time frame. And it's been a blessing to do that, because in order to have accomplished that, we've had to touch a lot of lives. And the only way we can touch all those lives is through the system that I'm showing you right now. All right, great. So there's 4 key skills that have helped us to develop that. And you can actually build a successful team by understanding these skills, embracing them, and applying them into your Legal Shield business routinely, and then learning to master those skills as you go along. So the first one is prospecting, right? What is prospecting? Prospecting is finding people to talk to. So you can either be warm market prospecting, cold market prospecting. Warm market is the people that you already know or that know you. Cold market is meeting people along the way that you don't necessarily know. And then, of course, we also have lead generation and programs where there's online opportunity seekers that are looking for a way to be able to generate additional income. Well, either way, any of those 3, as a matter of fact, you can add a 4th in prospecting, because we want to get good at getting referrals. Anytime you share Legal Shield with somebody, you want to look at getting referrals from those people. So prospecting is the number one primary responsibility of a network marketer in any given day. The number one, right? Before you do anything else, prospecting is key. And so we say, if you're part-time, at least 2 exposures a day, right? If you're full-time, the goal is to do at least 3 to 5 exposures. And if you're seriously full-time, right, you want to be going above that, because again, you have the capacity now to build and to grow your business at a much faster pace. All right, so number 1 is prospecting. And so, number 2 is presenting. The next phase of the business is presentation, okay? Next phase of the business is presentation. And that is talking to the people that you find, all right? And learning how to have a quality presentation is more than just sharing Legal Shield. It is reselling yourself on the vision of Legal Shield every time you share it with someone else. Because the person across the table from you, the person across the Zoom from you, may not see it the way you see it, but every time you share it, you show it to yourself all over again. And you actually crystallize your resolve on why you're building the Legal Shield business, because you're sharing your own why. You're sharing your story and testimony. You're sharing the testimonies of the people that you help. And it reminds you every day why you're building your Legal Shield business. And nobody can talk you out of it when you reiterate to yourself. It's auto-suggestion. It's self-programming the things that are positive in your business. And so that's presentation. Number 3 is duplication. Number 3 is duplication. Okay, and that is actually getting the people that you've recruited into your team, because when you start presenting and doing that well, people are going to actually get the membership. People are going to join as an associate. Well, once they join, now we want to duplicate what you do in the lives of other people. Okay, so duplication is number 3. And what I want you to know, jot this note down. Whatever you do in business, good or bad, is going to duplicate. I'm going to say that again, right? Whatever you do in business, good or bad, is going to duplicate. So you have to be careful with what you do, because if you do things that you don't want to duplicate because you're just trying to get short-term results, what will happen is you'll look up, and a few months from now, you'll be having to rectify issues that you couldn't stop because you had put them in motion. And once they went away from you, it's difficult to siphon poison out of a pond, even if it's a small drop, because you don't know where to go and get it. So you got to be careful, right? And learn how to do the right things right up front so you can duplicate the good stuff, and be mindful that your associates are going to catch more than what you teach them. They're going to catch more than what you teach them. So you have to be careful. And so what we've heard in leadership circles is that you're always on. In business, a lot of times people say, well, why don't you relax a little bit, right? But when I'm conducting business, I always have to be on. You know why? Because people will catch some of the things when I relax, right? As I'm looking to build a business, and they'll catch the things that I didn't even intend to teach them if I'm not paying attention and being on. That doesn't mean that you don't have downtime. We work hard and we play hard as well. You saw it in the first picture. But do realize, folks, that when we're working, we've got to be on. And that's even while we're on a Zoom, right? So dress sharp, be attentive, sit up front, lean into, right? Participate in the chat. All of that stuff matters when you're building a business. And then number 4 is leadership. Number 4 is leadership, right? And that's where you develop into the type of person that other people will want to follow. And here's what I want you to know. You can actually be great at prospecting, great at presenting, great at duplication, but if you don't learn how to lead, then your success will be short-lived. And so learning how to lead is the fabric, right? The string that pulls all of these other things together. And that's what's helped us to build an amazing organization, right? Is learning how through the leadership development in Legal Shield. And understand that, of course, this is a personal development company with a compensation plan attached to it. And you get a chance to be a part of that. And the better you become, the more income you can. So you now have the strategy to run a big business. So when you first get started, you're going to encourage people to build a big list. But guess what? You're going to continue to add upon that list as you move along. And your number 1 job is to approach people and pique interest. That is prospecting. Okay, that is prospecting. Now, once you get a person to be open and interested, we're going to send them a third-party tool. And then we're going to learn how to edify people. And I know some of you are saying, man, I've heard this before. Well, listen, I'm telling you, we got to reiterate the things that helped us to duplicate over and over and over again. Because, of course, when you're looking at building a business, repetition is the mother of all skill. And learning how to master the mundane is how most of the most successful people in Legal Shield have built to the level of success that they have. So you learn how to speak well of other people. And because we live in a negative society, people know how to talk bad about each other, but we have to teach them how to speak highly of one another in our company. So when you hear people speaking to other people in a way that denotes respect, just know that that is intentional, because when we speak highly of one another, we lift each other up. When we're speaking to other people, that edification now is going to carry over, and that deference is going to be shared with the people that we're looking to talk to. So once you got the person open and you move them to the next step in the process, maybe they send a short video, you're now going to get them on a 3-way call with an expert. And the expert can be anybody, right, that has had a little bit of success in Legal Shield. They're going to invite them to do a live presentation where they can see the rest of the information. And then we're going to go to the close, where you actually get them to make a decision, which is a part of the presentation as well. And then, of course, once we get them to home base, we're going to get them started all over again. So the person that has the most success is the person who's running people around these bases with the most frequency and the most regularity. And in the middle of all of this, folks, as you can see, is training, which is what we're doing right now. Now, some of these concepts, right, are things that'll evolve and change, right? We went from phone calls that actually pique people's interest to now, to CDs and DVDs. And then we moved to now where people can get a click of a button and actually watch a video. Well, no matter whether the concept changes or not from the third-party tool, the principles are still the same, that we move people around the bases. And what I want you to know is that you don't have to bat 1,000. When you get good at the regularity of prospecting, presenting, duplication, and leadership, when you get good at the regularity, you're going to have the large numbers actually come into effect to help you to win and to win big. And what I need you to know is that in baseball, Jim Rohn says that you could actually strike out 7 times out of 10, and you only hit the ball 3 times, and that would be successful to pay you $4 million a year. In the world of Legal Shield, it's a similar numbers game, right? If you get 10 people going around the bases and only 3 out of every 10 that actually see the presentation and want to get involved, are actually join you every single month, you get 3 new people. Before you know it, you're going to get 3 and then show those 3 how to get 3. Now you're at 9, right? You teach those 9 how to get 3 as well, just by doing the same thing. 3 out of 10, you're at 27. You teach those 27 how to get 3, 81, 243, right? 846. You get about massive exponential growth by following a simple, proven system to help people become successful. Now, here's what I want you to know. Once people get on the field, sometimes they'll want to steal a base. They'll want to move too fast or move too slow. And here's what I want you to know, that as a coach, it's not your job to make people become successful. It's not your job to make people become successful. It's your job to teach people. Hopefully, I just freed you there, right? Because some people, you looking like, man, I got my cousin joined, and I helped, somebody in my family joined, a coworker, and it's hard for me to look at them every day because they haven't had success in Legal Shield. But you got to ask yourself, did they show up for Fast Start training? Did they get on the weekly Zoom, right, to learn how to, do the presentation and invite guests? Did they do their first private business Zoom or private Zoom conference where they can invite guests to see the presentation and let you do the presentation? Would you believe that you would be willing to do all the work for a new associate and they won't even do the work to invite the people that are closest to them to see the information, and they would still blame somebody else for not having success in Legal Shield? But it's in that situation, it's not your job to make them become successful. It's just your job to teach them the system of success, and it's up to them to follow you along the pathway of success in order to create the success that they desire. And when I learned that I couldn't carry people in business, I learned that I couldn't force people to become successful, even though they had the most potential in the world. I freed myself mentally and physically, and it allowed me to start focusing on the people who deserved my time and not just the people who wanted my time, not just people who I was trying to give my time away from to. And what you have to learn here is how to make people or teach people how to earn your time. And when you do that, folks, you'll learn how to be the type of leader, again, that grows a business that is systemic and not completely contingent upon you. I can't tell you how many times I said, I'm gonna make this person successful if it kills me, right? I almost died a couple times, I feel like. But the reality is, folks, is once I learned to really just drive the system home, more people had success. And so when it comes to building your business, not everything is always gonna work out. And I need you to know, right, that sometimes it's gonna be painful to have people tell you no. You prospect people, you build up the courage, the nerve to say, hey, listen, I'm building a business part-time, I'm expanding here in the area. You seem sharp, would you be open to making some extra money? And somebody throws your card in your face or throws it away, right? If you're meeting them out and about, or you reach out to a friend or a family member, they're picking up at first when we were talking about the finals for the NBA. But when we're talking about this NBA, the No Bosses Association, they stopped picking up. That is painful, folks. But here's what I want you to know, that most people want to shine bright like a diamond, but they're unwilling to get cut like one. And in prospecting, it's important to be okay with getting cut. You would take a bullet for your child, right? If that is your reason why you're building your business, why wouldn't you take a no? And that no cuts like, again, like a knife sometimes. But the reality is, folks, is that the only way to establish brilliance in a diamond is to actually go through the cuts. So you got to go through your own personal cuts in prospecting. And I brought all of this up to share with you that as a coach, when you're building a business and now people come to you, if they have a lot of people, right, getting to, that they're getting on the phone with, but they're not getting them to a presentation, then they're messing up in phase one of prospecting. They may get people to be open, but they may not be moving them well to a third-party tool and then getting them on a three-way call. So we now can address the prospecting if they're not getting a lot of people in front of the information. Guess what? If they're doing a great job of prospecting, but we're getting to presentation and people are not signing up, now we can address, hey, we might have to work on the presentation, the close, the length of time that you're taking to do a presentation, right? Some of the stuff that you're actually saying within the presentation to overcome objections before you even get to the end. Like all of those things can be shored up. And if we got a lot of people seeing Legal Shield, but they're not joining, and it's above the law of numbers that really should be there, the 3 or 4 out of every 10 that are getting the membership or joining in business, now you can address the presentation. You can say, hey, look, let's do some coaching there. If people are getting people through the presentation, they get a lot of people to join, but they only got 20 people on their front line, which shouldn't happen, by the way. If you're building for some structure and depth, then you realize that they're using their influence and they're building a big business, but they're not duplicating. They're not doing something that's going to duplicate. They're only doing what works. And that's not going to, again, have success or quantify success long term. So then we can go to the duplication. Do we have people going to Fast Start training? Are we having people doing their game plan interview within the first 24 to 48 hours, right? That makes all the difference in the world. And when I saw a power pivot in our business, and what I want you to know is that, again, we were doing well at the beginning of the year, but it wasn't until COVID-19 happened where the rug was pulled out from under us, right? Literally, because things are going well. The hotel events were taking place and doing Super Saturdays. The team was going to different states. But then when all of that was pulled away, we had to reevaluate how we built the business. But during the pandemic, we started looking at the facets of our business that would allow us to grow the most. And one of the biggest power pivots was moving from doing game plan interviews within the first 3 or 4 days to doing them the same day. Getting the person launched. We could only do a private business reception within the first 3 to 5 days when the person got started. But once we started doing Zooms, guess what? We could get a new person to Zoom the same day or the next day. And that was exactly when we were going to do it, because we had the ability to now, at the click of a button, get the information in front of people. Once we shifted that, folks, our production and recruiting literally grew exponentially. And we, got almost, up until this point, 100 recruits on a monthly basis. And it wasn't just us, folks. It was the fact that the team bought into it and they started running people around the bases as well. So I'm going to wrap up with this, right? And this is number 5, and it's sacrifice. I've shared with you, number 1, what it takes to build a big business. Number 1, to be attractive, you got to have a big vision. Number 2, you got to know where you are, identify that, right? And utilize the coaching to help you to see if you're at a different place and then identify what you need to do in order to get from where you are to where you want to be. Number 3, you got to fight the daily battles of prospecting, presentation, and personal development on your own, but you can only win the war of success by building a team if you're building a networking business. Number 4 is the system. Lean on the system, because the system doesn't fail even when people do. Number 5 is sacrifice. My mentor, Mr. Mike Humes, always asks us, hey, listen, what are you willing to give up in order to go up? What are you willing to give up in order to go up? And I see it this way, right? That in order to get what you want, you have to be willing to sacrifice in the beginning what you actually want in the end. I'm gonna say that again. In order to get what you want, right, in the end, you gotta be willing to sacrifice that thing in increments in the beginning. So a lot of people want more time freedom. But what you have to understand is when you're building a part-time business, you got to put in 10 to 15 hours a week, which is what most part-timers are going to put in initially. Some of the same time that you want in the end, you got to be willing to sacrifice in the beginning. When the family is about to, go and have family time, and they're going to a family member's home to play games and, have dinner. If that's during your call time, sometimes you got to make the decision to allow the family to go and say, hey, listen, I'll be able to go next time, but this time I've committed myself to making my calls during this time. And that sacrifice sometimes is painful, right? Most of the time it's going to be painful, right? But it's necessary, because one day soon, while everybody else is having to go off to work, you want to be able to take your family on a family vacation without looking at the price tag, right? So sometimes in the beginning, you got to be willing to sacrifice the time. When you're going to a convention and it's going to be an all-day event, you got to let your family know, like Mr. Lewis said, just put them in the closet sometimes. Like, hey, look, I can't have you disturbing me, because I've got to get the information in me that is going to change our family tree forever. So you got to be willing to invest the time so you can have it in the end. Some people want to make more money, right? But the reality is that they're not willing to invest $20 a month to have Legal Shield Advantage so they can run their business from an automated standpoint. You got to be willing to invest the money up front in order to be able to have it as a return on investment in the end. So don't be cheap in building your business, right? Be willing to invest, because I've never seen a business grow without continual investment in your business. Upgrade your membership. If you don't have, your home business supplement to protect yourself in the event that you ever get audited, make sure that you have that plan. Some people look at it as a cost. I look at it as an investment. When you go to making $50,000 to $100,000 a year, you could potentially have an audit coming your way because you're making a significant amount more money. Well, guess what? You want to have a program in place that already has. It's only $10 a month, but people look at that as a deal. It's an investment. A lot of times, folks, people don't want to sacrifice their social esteem from the ignorant people that are around them. And a lot of times, you got to be willing to look crazy in front of people in order to have a crazy lifestyle, right? And if I would have only stayed being a barber when I first got involved with Legal Shield, and COVID-19, which is taking scores and scores of lives because people had to be out in the public. As a barber, I would have literally had to risk my own life and the safety of my family's life by going to the barbershop every single day and still cutting people's hair, maybe potentially even against the law if I didn't have a secondary way to make income. And what I need you to know right now is that somebody may have placed this vehicle in your life even before you knew that it had purpose for you, before an incident like COVID-19 happened, so that you would already have a vehicle that would help you to get from where you are to where you want to be, and you could do it safely. Over the last 4 to 5 months, we haven't done one presentation outside of the home, and our income multiplied. right? Just last month, they paid us over $23,000 in commissions, bonuses, and incentives. And we did that from home. Now, I don't say that to impress you. I say it to impress upon you that there was a system that we put in place 17 years ago that is now paying dividends today because we were willing to make the sacrifices that were necessary. So what are you willing to give up in order to go up, right? What are you willing to give up in order to go up? And you got to define that for yourself. Nobody else can tell you what your sacrifices are going to be, but all I need you to know is that there's going to be some sacrifices along the way. And whatever you're willing to sacrifice, right, with the right intention and then putting in the work, it doesn't make sense to sacrifice time and then sit at your desk and rearrange papers, right? During that hour that you got to be driving your business. And, of course, just falling in love with your phone in order to make sure that you're building your business, right? Because that time away has to be valuable enough for you to put in the work necessary in order for you to achieve the greatness that's on the inside of you. I see greatness in you. I can't even see all of it, but I just truly believe in the greatness on the inside of each person that God has created. And so once you know greatness is possible, good is no longer an option. And what I want you to know, guys, is along the way, you're going to have some things that don't go the way that you want them to. I'll tell you a quick story and I'm wrapping up. Along our way in Legal Shield, we're building a business. We hit executive in 12 months, and it's been a blessing, now because we've got team, Mr. and Mrs. Delvito Johns and Alicia Dukes, 10 months executives, Mr. and Mrs. Jeffrey Gamble and Brandy Pember. I was saying three names at one time. They were able to hit in 12 months, and Mr. Ryan Davis, only 10 months as well. Of course, Mr. and Mrs. Robert and Judy Foster, 5 months. Because we were able to do it in a short period of time, we were able to show others how to shave off their learning curve and do it in a much faster time period because of the systems that we were able to teach. And of course, the technology that's available to each and every one of us. But I want you to know that it wasn't always easy. In order for those people to show up in our business, we had to go through some challenging times when things weren't so well. And what do you do when things aren't so well? You got to figure out what your reason why is, because we're not going to be able to keep you around long, but your why will. We're not going to be able to keep you around long, but your why will. And I'll never forget being an executive director in Legal Shield, right? And we got this, big family, so we had to get a big vehicle. We had a, extended cab, Suburban, beautiful vehicle, able to have all my children in there without touching each other. It was one of the best things we could ever do, right? Taking them to school and different events and all the different stuff. Well, somewhere along the way, our business started slowing down, probably because we took our foot off the gas, which you don't want to do, right? Until your business is completely automated and it's growing every single day, because either your business is growing or it's dying. There is no in between. And so we had kind of taken our foot off the gas a little bit, and the money started to slow down a little bit, and we were executives, right? And I've made some poor financial decisions, so I won't blame it on the business. Legal Shield has always done whatever it was supposed to do based on what I was putting into the engine of this machine, this cash flow machine. But in this season of my life, my transmission goes out in my Suburban, right? And the car can still go forward, but it just won't go on reverse. Now get this. So I'm still having to do private business receptions, which means I'm having to show up at people's homes, and I'm the representation of success in Legal Shield as an executive and above. But my transmission is out, and I don't have the thousands of dollars that it would cost to get this big machine fixed at the time. So I had to drive it for a little while it was malfunctioning. So I had to show up at private business receptions, right? And so what I would do is I would either park the car up the road, or I would have to find a place that was on a hill that would allow me, right, to roll my car out. Same thing at weekly business briefings and things of that nature. I would have to pull into a parking space that either only allowed me to go forward, or it would actually, roll out of the parking space on its own. But the reason why I bring this up is because even though I was ashamed, I was, disheartened by some of the stuff that I was dealing with personally, guess what? I had, because of my strong reason why, because I wanted to make sure that my children never looked up in the stands and didn't see their dad in the stands when it was time for them to do that, because I was working on our financial freedom, right? So I still went to the events anyway. I still showed up for the private business receptions, because you know what? The answer to my solution, or to my problem, was the solution of helping somebody else have success in their Legal Shield business. So because my purpose is to bring out the greatness in other people and never settle for less personally, I still had to show up. And because we were willing to do that, folks, guess what? We put our vehicle in a position where it could only go forward. And here's what I need you to know. Whenever you get to a place where your back is against the wall, you're having challenges in your Legal Shield business, that's not the time, right? When adversity hits, Winners don't see adversity as reasons to quit. It's a reason to step up your game. And so during that time, we had to put ourselves in a position in our truck. We had to put ourselves in a position in our business where we could only go forward. There was no reverse. I couldn't think about going back to what I had done traditionally because all I was going to get is traditional results. And today I'm so thankful because thousands of people have come because we made the decision to keep moving forward. And so when you do something significant, I want you to understand, folks, that people are going to often say, hey, you're doing too much. You're spending too much time away from your family. You're investing too much money. Maybe that little thing just isn't for you. And they say, hey, listen, you're biting off maybe more than you can chew. And when people say that to you, I want you to remember that James Kelly said, right? I'd much rather nibble on greatness than to choke on mediocrity. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. It's not just about living a legacy, folks, or leaving a legacy. It's about living a legacy. And that's exactly what we get a chance to do with this amazing opportunity and platform. So let's continue to build your business, folks. Cast a big vision so that others can be attracted to it as well. And we look forward to seeing you at your next advancement, your next ring level, and looking forward to seeing you walk across many stages and being on the beaches of the world together as we go on these incentive trips that Leadership is going to provide. So with that, Mr. Gonzalez, I'm going to turn the call back over to you, sir.